Your bedtime has arrived, you slip into your sheets and reach for your phone to watch a relaxing video before falling asleep. Did you know that this bad habit could easily be removed? It's a habit that many of us have. Watching a relaxing video on the internet, an episode of series, or even a movie to help us fall asleep, because otherwise I can't sleep. And to be honest, it was my case too. Initially, it was a solution to help me during insomnia, but then it becomes more frequent, eventually turning indispensable. It doesn't take long for this habit to take root in my daily life, but it had more consequences than I thought. For those who may not know me, I'm Laureline and I'm a designer. I'm so passionate about cognitive psychology. For over a decade, I've been focusing on working on the smartphone addictions and how this little object can impact our daily lives. So if you're interested in topics like digital minimalism, productivity, technology, or even health, don't hesitate to subscribe to my channel. And now, let's get back to business. What really happens when we watch a video late at night? Why are we so convinced that we can't fall asleep without watching a video? Today I'm going my best to answer this question and provide you with simple and concrete solutions. The bedtime phase is often a moment between us and our minds. Nothing happens, no external stimulation. It's often a dreaded moment for many of us. As our minds have nothing to do, they start to overthink. Michael Bruce, Dr. Sleep, explains, "In my insomnia practice, 40 to 50% of patients require distraction to fall asleep. You get in bed, turn off the light, and it's quiet. Other thoughts come rushing back in. There's a thing called autonomic arousal. Things like heart rate, anxiety, muscle tension, they rise as you think about a stressful thing. You can't enter into unconscious sleep, while those are at an elevated level. Watching TV is a passive activity. You let the stimuli float over you and eventually you're asleep." As Dr. Michael Bruce explains, many of us can feel overwhelmed by dark thoughts, making this falling asleep phase unpleasant. For reflex, many have entertained the brain until the last moment to avoid this moment of reflection. Thus, according to studies, nearly 95% of Americans are said to need a screen to fall asleep at night. Watching TV and video generating brainwaves associated with pleasant, wakeful relaxation and absorbed cognitive capacity, taking viewers' minds off other things. For this, there are several options: YouTube video, binge watching series, live streams, or simply scrolling until your eyes close. It doesn't seem to have only positive points and has really impacts on our health. What we don't see when consuming digital content at night are the long-term impacts. It's difficult to foresee. However, it's important to note that such habits are not without consequences, especially on health. First, watching content on the screen delays the moment of falling asleep. Instead of going to bed around 11 p.m., we found ourselves still awake at 1 a.m. And depending on the wake-up time, not everyone's managed to get the minimum recommended 7 hours of sleep. Reed Hastings, CEO of Netflix, succinctly captured these situations. When you watch a series on Netflix and you get hooked, you stay up late into the night. At the margin, we are competing with sleep. That's a lot of time. Indeed, Netflix's competitor isn't Disney+, it's your sleep. Moreover, the issue with screens is that they are not always turned off the moment we close our eyes, but rather later at night, either when the phone falls or noise awakening us. Consequently, we enter the sleep to turn off the device. This seemingly benign action is, however, a major cause of sleep disturbances. Thirdly, the quality of sleep with screens is not as rejuvenating. Studies indicate that nearly 20% of people falling asleep with a screen report feeling tired upon waking up. Experts have said that while one bad night's sleep isn't considered serious, an accumulation of bad nights can significantly deteriorate the quality of life, leading to symptoms such as anxiety, irritability, or even a form of depression in our daily lives. Finally, studies have established a link between artificial light, especially that generated by screens, sleep quality, and weight gain. Experts suggest that excessive exposure to artificial light at bedtime could lead to significant weight gain. Clearly, binge watching, spending time on social media, and delaying sleep are not sustainable practices in the long term. It's advisable to alter these habits promptly. But don't worry, as always, we've delved into the subject and compiled the best tip for you. So, let's get practical. The reason we consume content late at night is primarily due to the influx of negative thoughts and that overwhelm us. To counteract this, it's advisable to capture and extract them from our minds. Don't worry, we won't be suggesting any voodoo rituals. Instead, we will recommend the journaling technique. If you're not familiar with this practice, it's straightforward, inexpensive, and very quick to implement. The concept involves reviewing your day, noting what went well, what could have been improved, what you learned, and what you're grateful for. Resisting the temptations of televisions, iPad, iPhones, or whatever is not easy. As it's your brain in resisting, it's best to remove all the devices from your bedroom. Transform this space into a tech-free zone. To ease the transitions, it's crucial to introduce replacement activities, preferably those that are non-stimulating. For this purpose, place books or articles that interest you by your bedside. It might be somewhat challenging to enjoy at first, especially if you're not accustomed to do it. However, the love of reading develops with reading. If you feel like you really need sound or a voice to fall asleep to, then consider opting for a guided meditation or white noises, such as nature sound, for example. The goal is to soothe your mind with relaxing sounds, all without a screen. If your budget allows, you could explore white noise machines like Morphebox. Alternatively, you can choose apps like Calm, Headspace or Petit Bamboo, which don't require the screen to be turned on to deliver their content, unlike YouTube, for example. Not that many ASMR content creators are also available on podcast platforms such as Spotify or Apple Podcasts. One common phenomenon leading to screen use before bedtime is revenge bedtime procrastination. This occurs when we feel our days aren't interesting enough and we're not satisfied enough to move on to the next day. As a result, we tend to delay sleep as much as possible to compensate. To avoid this, it's best to try for more positive and fulfilling days. Recommended to limit time spent on social media, avoid immensely scrolling, and steer clear of ultra-time consuming services, which not only consume more time, but also sap our motivation to accomplish more meaningful tasks. Therefore, try to better manage your waking hours to prevent them from infringing on your rest time. Because willpower alone is not enough, consider using an app blocker. I recommend Jomo, available for free on iPhone and Mac. The goal is not to block all your apps all night long and cross your fingers hoping it holds. If you've picked up these bad habits months or even years ago, it will be difficult to change. It's better to proceed gradually. What you can do, as I have, is to block apps like streaming videos 3 nights out of 7. Choose the evening when you will not use your phone and you must do something else. If you feel that is good for you, don't hesitate to increase the number of days per week. Secondly, don't be afraid to allow yourself breaks. That is, the possibility to temporarily interrupt the blocking. It might seem contradictory, but it's not. It's better to allow yourself small moments of weakness rather than completely giving up when the frustrations becomes too high. However, be reasonable. Limit yourself to 1 or 2 breaks per evening, then to a maximum duration of 30 minutes. You must take into account that not every day are equals. We can experience downs, and that's okay. To be honest, when I started implementing this routine, I really struggled to maintain it. I couldn't restrict myself and I was really frustrated. But I was so tired the next day from going to bed so late that I knew I was doing ultimately good for me. So I had the possibility to take breaks. It really helped me transition from too much to little, much more naturally and simply. And in fact, today, much more radical. I've even set up an automation that turns my phone to black and white, dark mode, and automatically cut off app from 11 p.m. And I hardly use it anymore. If you're interested, don't hesitate to let me know in the comments. I could make a video about it in the future. If you thought you were the only one unable to fall asleep without a video, you're mistaken. However, that doesn't mean it's a healthy habit. Quite the opposite, in fact. Resisting is not a small feat, especially considering that Netflix and other streaming giants have optimized everything to outcompete their main rival, your sleep. So don't hesitate to implement tips, whether these or others, to help you disconnect from screen at bed. Thanks for watching and take care.